Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Alisha here at Cosmic Gateway, and I am just bursting at the seams to introduce my next guest. I have Jenny Schiltz here. Welcome and thank you. I'm just almost tongue-tied because I saw you on Todd's show and you shared some incredible information, and it lit me up in ways that I haven't felt my soul just expand in that moment. And at that point in time, everything in my life became super clear. And I was told, you have to contact Jenny right now and ask her to come on and talk about her parallel lives, her multidimensional aspect experiences. And this has catalyzed this series of bringing people forward who go through these incredible experiences that I know a lot of us do, but nobody talks about. So, without any further extension, thank you and welcome, Jenny.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, after Todd's show, I literally said to my husband, I'm like, so I did a thing today. And he's like, oh God, what? And I was like, I told him what I shared, and he goes, okay. And I'm like, it opened a door.
Mm,
And and this was even before I saw that you had reached out. I was like, it opened a door. I could just feel it. And even just the amount of contact that's been coming in, some of the memories that are resurfacing, I'm like, oh yeah, I opened a door. And it's a great door. I really like it.
mhm.
Um, because I find it fascinating. I find it, it really just it lights me up, same way it does with you. Because it just feels so in alignment. It's not the normal everyday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I want to dive into all that you have to share, but maybe for those people that are watching who aren't familiar with you,
Sure.
can you talk a little bit about who Jenny is on social media and the work that you do and how you've, I know you've been out for, doing this for a decade or longer, and maybe we'll
Yeah.
just encompass that a little bit so people can kind of get to know you on that level. And then we're going to dive deep into all the things that light us up cosmically
Yeah.
and um, all that good
So I am someone who came in awake and just able to see. And my grandfather, it's like he knew, but it was always shh, stop, shh. Like it was always the you're going to get us in trouble, stop, don't say that to people kind of thing. But I was fine. And then he passed when I was 8, so it was right before my ninth birthday, and he passed, and it left this humongous void. I didn't have anyone. And I didn't have anyone I could say, oh, this is what I'm seeing, experiencing. And in very many ways he was a teacher. Like I can remember him taking me into the woods,
stuff.
um, and it was like he would talk to me about how to connect with the elementals. And then there was one time about, it was like he literally opened a portal. And what I later in life realized was my highest aspect stepped through. And so it was that type of things. And so when he passed, it was like the magic left. And so I was searching for it. And I kept saying things to my parents, and I really freaked them out between the fact that my mom was Catholic. So then, there was all that that came in. But my dad was very much like, do you want to be in a straitjacket? And so then I was so just very traumatized by that. But then the universe just smacked me even more because I was walking home to my sister's best friend's house after school, and I watched their mother get pulled out of the house in a straitjacket because she spoke to angels. So you can imagine, what would that do? Right? Like this was Fort Knox. I mean, I completely shut it down, completely, to the point where I think before my 30s, I would have said to you, well, yeah, I was really an imaginative kid.
Mm,
It was just easier to say I had a big imagination versus going, there's more to this reality, people. And then, I got married very young, I had babies very young, and I was trying to do everything right, right? So, corporate America, I'm working for Hopkins, gerbil wheel,
yeah.
just absolute gerbil wheel, just constantly trying to keep up. There wasn't a lot of consciousness.
Mhm.
There just wasn't. I mean, it was, and anyone listening to this who has done the wheel of let me work, 8 to 10 hours a day, get kids home, get them fed in a bathtub, into bed, knows there's no space.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to create space to explore yourself. It's not easy. So then in 2005, I was gifted by being hit by a drunk driver. And I literally do mean gifted, because what it did was, I mean, I was home. It was like I had no option. I was so injured. And, it led to a spinal fusion that I finally had in 2006. And, but during that time, it was like I got to know me, and I actually got to know my kids. And so it was like, whereas before it was like, okay, get them here in the morning, get them here in the afternoon. And then all of a sudden it's like mom's home. And mom was home when they got off the bus. And so for me, it was really realizing everything I had missed.
Mm.
So I knew in my head, I was already telling Spirit, I'm like, I don't want to go back to the rat race. I don't want to do this. And I was really lucky. I got offered a job where I could work from home. And so I was working from home, and then I was going out into the community and teaching, but it was my schedule.
Mm.
And I had an additional baby during that time. And that pregnancy, wow, we could really go into that pregnancy
Oh,
because that,
okay.
wow. Um, and then the fusion from 2006 failed. And by this point, I'm at 2010. And it sliced my cerebral fluid column. My brain shrunk. Like it was one of those. I spent an entire summer in a nursing home. And it was during that time that I was given my first option to leave. And so I was walking around the nursing home. I mean, the first moment was I looked at this guy, and he's in the corner and he's got this cigar. And I'm like, you can't smoke in here. And he's like, who's going to stop me? And I'm like, but you shouldn't be smoking in here. What are you doing in my room? And he's like, I'm waiting on a woman. And I'm like, what? And then he points, and I turn around and I see me in bed, and I am covered in animals. And I had, excuse me, let me let her little crazy butt
Yeah,
out.
sure. No worries.
Come on. Um, at one time in my 20s, I had had a Great Pyrenees, and I could see the Great Pyrenees laying on me, and it was like cats and dogs. I mean, it really was a whole cuddle puddle, and they were all on top of me, healing me, and it was
Was
just
was
amazing.
that
But
the
I was,
picture behind you? I searched
uh,
for a.
no,
Oh,
that's my Dixie girl. She was a healing companion that came in. Um, much like, really, she was there for a lot of that at that
ah.
time, but she wasn't past.
Mhm.
Um, So I was like, huh. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I was kind of like, okay, so there's my body, and here I am. And so then that's when I got introduced to Yeshua and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Archangel Michael. And I was just walking around the nursing home with them. And I learned so much, so much. And then they said, do you want to go, or do you want to stay? And I'm like, I have 3 kids. I have to stay. And they're like, no, 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 no. You don't ever stay for anyone else other than you. And I'm like, okay, well, if I stay, what does that mean? And they said, this is a long road. You're going to have a long road to heal. But when you do, we want you opening back up to
Mm.
everything from before.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, and it was like just daunting, kind of daunting. But at the same time, I was like, I got this. And I literally remember Yeshua tucking me back into my body, helping me text my husband because I was incoherent. And I texted him, like, I'm dying. I need help. And so he immediately went up to the nursing home and realized I had major fever. I had a brain infection. Um, so they got the ambulance. I went back to the hospital, back in the ICU for a while, and then was put in another nursing home for a while, which that second nursing home was amazing, absolutely amazing. Um, so, and then you get out from that. You're on more pharmaceuticals than you would ever imagine. And so then I tell my husband, or I tell somebody, my friends, and the response was very much, well, you were on a lot of drugs.
Mm.
And
Cool.
so I just kind of acted like it didn't happen. I know, I know. And so then spirit really got me. So it was 2011. So this was 2010. 2011, we had a little farm and I was out in one of the outbuildings and I was listening to Eckhart Tolle. And all of a sudden there was this booming voice and it was like, you need to move to Colorado and get off all the pharmaceuticals or you will not be here at 50. Oh, it was true burning bush moment. So I call my husband who comes out to where I'm at and I'm hysterical. I'm like, we're moving to Colorado. And he's like, we've never been to Colorado. And we were in Maryland, which is, it's like 2,300 miles away. And and I'm like, it doesn't matter, we're going. And I'm like, and if you don't go, I'm taking the kids and going. And he's looking at me like, so then he just says, we have Christmas break coming up. Can we go out and just see it? And I said, yep. We went out and when by July we were moved. I mean, it was, yeah. And we moved here with no jobs, nothing. And so I came here to Colorado Springs and the mountains here are full of quartz and everything amplified
Oh,
and
I can feel it.
everything, yeah, just bust open. And so I spent 2012, 2013, like full body down, ascension systems, detoxing. I would have 3 sets of sheets because I had to change the sheets every day because I was just, it was gross getting off pharmaceuticals. I was on so many. It was disgusting what was coming through my body at night. But by the time I got out of it and then started like myofascia healing, it everything just in the physical body. It's not that I don't have pain. Of course I still have pain, but it's nothing like what it was. And so from there, I started channeling and I just had this blog and I would just write. And the website at the time was Channeling the Masters. And it was a lot of the ascended masters, some galactics, and then they cut me off.
Oh no.
It was like they said to me, they said, okay, you've established this. Now we want you to work on who are you? What is your voice? What, instead of just always being the vessel, they wanted more than the vessel. And so that really just became this journey of self-discovery. And that's when I found shamanism. And it fit enough. I don't know that anything truly fits, but it fit enough. And that's really what started all of this journey of seeing clients and doing the earth work and the grid work and the ley lines. And so,
Wow. What an
yeah, it's
what
been a
an
journey.
incredible story. And like I was gonna say I've been your silent follower for like years. I always you always pop up at the right time. Either I'm going through something and you have the answer and the antidote, or I'll pass by your page and I'll go, oh yeah, in sync, cool. But I did not know that. That's
Yeah,
you've really been on one in- epic, incredible story.
incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, so you can see how, my loved ones really thought I was going crazy.
Yeah.
And I do remember one night, and my husband's like, look, if all this stuff is real, angels are real, all of this is real, and it's pitch dark in a room, he's like, I want proof, right? My bedside lamp starts going, and then he goes, there must be a faulty wire. I was like, okay, we're done. And it was interesting. It was really important. It was such an important moment because prior to that, I kept trying to convince people.
Yeah.
I was looking for validation. And that moment, I was like, I realized it can be right in front of you. But if you're not ready to see it, you're not going to see it. And I can't determine who I am based on your ability or inability to see. And it was like, it was a very defining moment. And, you know, thankfully, I mean, he's great. He's my ride or die. He's my driver for a lot of sacred journeys, right? But, you know, in that moment, my declaration of I don't care if you believe anymore, it doesn't matter to me, changed everything.
I was going to say, how powerful is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so
And
incredible.
it wasn't coming from a place of anger towards him. I wasn't trying to get him to awaken. I was just, and maybe I would have been if there was never a time that he tried to stop me.
Mm.
But if I tried to get him to feel what I was feeling or see what I was seeing, that's when I met the resistance.
Yeah,
And so that was a really powerful lesson too.
yeah. And I'm so glad you shared that, because I think so many people watching this probably needed to hear that exact thing. You know, relationships can be tricky when one person's having experiences the other one's
Yeah.
not. Um, I love the fact that he never stopped you, and I imagine
Yes, very much so.
encourages. Um, but yeah, sometimes, yeah, yeah,
He did, he did once he realized, I think he really thought I was going crazy.
uh,
I think he was, because I had had brain shrinkage,
yeah, okay, yeah, I can,
right? Like
yeah,
I had physical things, like, you know, so it's the same thing of like the people who have a massive head trauma come
mm-hmm.
out of it with psychic abilities, right? Your brain had to figure out a way to adapt. So it moved how it works into an area you hadn't accessed before. But to the outside people, it could look like insanity or schizophrenia or, you know, any of these things. So it was a really treacherous, it felt treacherous to me, that time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was so much I didn't share.
Yeah.
Like even with my sister, who's like a physician's assistant in the ER, it was like there was things, no way, she's gonna be like, oh, hallelujah, you need a 72-hour hold. Whereas now I'm centered and established and I don't worry about that anymore. I mean, if somebody wants to say I'm crazy, that's fine. But it doesn't matter anymore because I'm here. And that's the difference.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think, and I don't even think I know right now. I think we had a glitch, but we're back. Um, that is what so many people are struggling with that I've seen. They're at that precipice of wanting to break out of their shell and just be themselves. And just permission to be yourself is huge. And giving voice to those people that are listening to that. I'm a bit
Mm-hmm.
unique because I grew up in a home that encouraged my abilities and like pushed me to pursue it and was curious about it. So I don't have that lived experience because I was just always the out there person.
Yeah.
But I realize
Yeah.
that's not normal, and what you're speaking to is so helpful for people
Yeah.
to, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And how, my oh my, how this world
I mean,
is.
it's interesting. My youngest, yeah, very much so. I mean, my youngest is raised in a household where it is completely encouraged and it's normal. My older two, absolutely not. Because I have a 15-year gap between the oldest and then 11, 12-year gap between the middle one. And they receive different parents, completely different parents. And it's interesting watching, you
Yes.
know, how they grow. And thankfully my older girls raise their babies very like um very crunchy granola. You know how I like it's you know these little babies. They're not, you know, it's wild. It's really neat to see. It's crazy or what? lost you for a second.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pause for a second just to reestablish the.
But that,
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We just had to stabilize the internet connection because we're about to take a huge U-turn here in the conversation. And I'm sure that many people understand that when we bring in high frequencies, it can scramble technology
it
just a
does.
little bit.
It
Um,
is what it is.
it is what it is. So I would love to talk about, you mentioned having these dream. When I say dreams, I put them in inverted commas because I believe
Yeah.
that they're very real experiences. They're us tapping into parallel experiences of
Mhm.
this lifetime. Not we're not even like taking into consideration like other aspects.
Other lifetimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And this is where it can get really contorting for the mind. But this is what I really want to speak to, things like contact experiences and,
Mhm.
lots of cosmic ET. This dives into military operations and, I say the SSP or secret space, but in a very broad, loose term. I feel like we're kind of dabbling into what is known about that and casting it on a more spiritual, multi-dimensional. Like we kind of got to broaden that umbrella,
Yeah.
um, because I think it's so much more vast than what we've known. And you spoke about experiences. So I mean, when did is there a starting point of when all that, the aspect of your life that you haven't given voice to fully yet, like how,
Yeah.
when can we dial that back to?
Well, there's multiple because there's me and this experience that has had contact throughout my life.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so there's that. But what I was sharing with Todd, really since my 20s, I have had dreams of being in the Air Force. Um, and they were like blips, right? Like little dreams. And I ran a lot of marathons, which, if you know me, that's really hilarious. Um, and was moving very quickly up through the ranks
Mm-hmm.
and very top secret, very, high clearance type stuff. When I was in full recovery, when I was after the accident and I was down more hours in the day than I was up, I would often slip into that world and I would see her running. And it was just like, I am struggling to put underwear on. And here in my dreams, I'm running, right? And I'm running fast. It was like one I can remember turning around to a group of guys going, "Are you all going to keep up?" Right? And it was like, it was recruits and I'm running them hard and I could see the mountains in the background. And I live Maryland, right? So I lived right near the Chesapeake Bay, flatland, and in these dreams, I'm like, not only am I running, but I'm looking and I'm seeing like mountains and foothills. And um, it was always just kind of neat. And it was always like I'd wake up and be like, okay, this body, this body can heal. This body can heal. I can do this. And so that really, it helped a lot. Um,
What a blessing and a contrast.
Such a contrast. And then there would be, after I moved to Colorado, and I'm looking at the Air Force Academy and the foothills, and I'm looking at Cheyenne Mountain and where NORAD is, and I'm going, I've been here.
Yeah.
I I know this space. The dreams picked up a little more, but they were still tiny blips, right? And it could be me working with, I want to say it's like a hologram, right? It was like imagine like you're in this space and there's like a hologram. And so some beings would come through that hologram and then we were able to like receive it, transcribe it, if you will, from them. And the hologram created the frequency stabilizer so
Mm.
that we could understand without necessarily being fried, right? Because sometimes the vibrations are so high It's really hard on the system. And so I would have that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm doing channeling work, I'm doing this healing work, I'm working with galactics, okay. And I kind of blew it off.
Mm.
And then last summer, well, okay, so I had had a dream. I'm seeing best way to tell this story. Last summer, I had this dream that it was like watching a movie.
Mhm.
And I saw myself in the Air Force Academy. I saw myself channeling, but I was doing a lot of schematic work, like blueprints, very um like it was like machinery.
Yeah.
It was trying to get things to work, right? So advanced technology type stuff, which
Mm.
I don't do any of that, right? That's kind of funny. I'm very much into like, okay, let's get into your shadow and let's move forward. And this is like very masculine, very mental, right?
Mm.
And so I was, seeing myself do that, and I saw having a boy. I had a child, and I was alone. I didn't have a mate or anything like that. And I didn't really see who's dad, but I knew dad wasn't there. And this child, he was so bright. I mean, bright, bright. Like this was a child that never hit the public school system.
Mm.
It was like from day one, he was never, and he was, it honestly, it felt like we lived inside the mountain and we weren't out, like the rest of the world didn't totally exist.
Mm.
Um, And so, we had gotten to the point he was 14, and there was just nothing more that he could be taught,
Mm.
right? And there was a group that had been working with him, and they said, we would like him to come with us, and he can,
Mm.
and he can learn. And it took me a little bit. I agreed. And the day that he was going to leave, it was like I met him. It was like the weirdest thing. I was like, I don't know whether I'm a pilot. I had no idea, but it was like I met him and I went onto that ship, and all of a sudden he's like, "Mom," and I'm like, I need to say goodbye one more time. And so the beings, and they were very, there was like Nordic, Palladian, Arcturian. And they were like, we've got him.
Mm.
He will be safe with us. And they're like reassuring the mama, right? And then somebody came up and said to me, they said, we're getting ready to hit the spot where we need to go and you have to leave. And it felt like a spot in the sky, really, to where it's like boom, they're just gone. And so I was like, okay. And so my boy says, he's like, Mom, I'll walk you out. He's like, because a gentleman always walks a lady out. And I don't know why that line was so important, but it was like it reverberated in my head, right? And so he walks me out. And I don't know what exactly that means, but then I was standing there and watching, and I watched the ship just gone. And then I watched years where I'm constantly receiving, 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 hoping to get messages from him. Like, is he okay? Little things like the birthdays, things like that. And I'm sorry, it's so much. And the grief was crushing. And it was like I felt like a shell. And I was just diving deeper and deeper into my work. Like my work was my life, because that way at least it distracted me from an empty home. Right.
Yeah.
And so I went to bed one night, and I wake up in the morning and I look and I hear Mom. And I come tearing down the stairs, and there he is. He's 14, and he was back, but he was different. and he had this light in his eyes that was different. And I just looked at him, and he gives me this huge hug because he was a big boy, kind of tall and lanky at 14, you know. And he says, Mama, I know what to do. I know how to save the planet. And I said, good. And the wildest thing was the grief wasn't gone because my boy had left. And yeah, he came back a boy, but he had, I mean, it feels like 10 years. It feels like the gap was 10 years of experiences that I probably couldn't even wrap my head around. And, I knew that he and I were forever in that military system. And so I had that huge, long dream. It just laid it out all for me. And I woke up and I cried for days, days. The grief was crushing. But where it brought me back to years prior, um, my youngest was 9. And I had this dream that there was a ship that landed in my yard, and it said USA on it, and it was like NASA. And I came tearing out the back door, and I'm like, get, go, you can't have her. She wants to be a child. She has a right to be a child. I'm like screaming and hollering at him, like, get, step in, right? And I woke up like, okay, what the hell was that? And so, I was kind of concerned about it for a little bit, but then, what are you going to do? Your kid's still here.
What,
You're
yeah,
just
what can you do?
nothing, absolutely nothing. But then it all came back when I had that other dream. And I'm like, you can't have her. But I also am full realization that these things aren't always my choice. But I look at the parallel life, and I have since, even from last summer, dreamed of her. And when I dream of her, I am her.
Yeah.
But I did have one recently where I was not her, and I was talking with her. And she was telling me there's so much she receives she cannot share. And beyond the schematics, it's more of the ascension process, the emotions, the what is all of this, right? She says, I receive so much of that I cannot share, but you can. And so it feels to me like what's happening is there's a bridge being built between us right now. I don't know what that means, but it is really interesting. Like, I break my feet. I've broken my right foot twice, my left foot once. Like, I'm chronically hurting them or in a boot or something. And this chick runs marathons. She's not in a relationship. I'm happily married. She has one child. I have three girls. She has a boy. It is like polarities, such polarities. And I can wrap my head around it by saying, okay, the soul wants to experience everything. Mm-hmm. And the most amount that it can in the fastest amount of time. But now I'm kind of going, what if the multidimensionality is the bridge? And I've definitely noticed that since I mentioned all of this on Todd's show, that a doorway is opened. And, I had a significant contact with a being from Lyra recently. Lyran being, because Lyra doesn't really exist anymore. Um, and it was so clear And I was like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah. But I mean, I can remember as a kid, I've had lots of experiences of just even, remembering being on a ship. I can remember, staring and getting up and looking at the time. I'm staring out the window and making note of the time. And then all of a sudden it's 5 hours later and I'm staring at the time going, there's no way I stood at this window for 5 hours. And this was after the back surgery. So I definitely was not standing for 5 hours. Um, so I've had lots of things like that. And I had one in, when was that? I think it was 2014. I was asleep and I wake up and I am on a gurney in a ship and I'm a little panicked, right? And this being, and to me, she kind of looks like a gray, but she had the most beautiful blue eyes. And she was older. You could see the age on her. And she's like, shh, you're okay. We have you. You have cancer on your ovary. We need to take it. And I was like, okay, all right. And I went back to sleep, right? Um, Years later, in 2017, I went to go and have a hysterectomy because I had so many issues, as a lot of, women do. And they wound up removing the ovaries, and which was not planned and a little shocking. But they said to me, they said, when did you have surgery on your ovary? And I said, I didn't. And they said, well, you had surgery on your right ovary. And the memory came back, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, what am I going to say? Right. And so, and then, they had taken the ovaries, they had checked it for cancer. They're like, there's no cancer. Everything is benign. Everything is fine. I'm like, okay. Um, so that was a beautiful confirmation. I mean, it sucked to lose my ovaries, right? Because now I have to do hormones, but I don't have menopause. So there's that. Um, but that confirmation was incredible.
You
Incredible.
you literally answered my telepathic question before I could get it out of my mouth. Was have you had yeah, and you just so because I love those stories. I love those stories when then there's I've had my own experiences recently where I went to a lymphatic specialist and she said, oh, you've got all this scar tissue on your ovaries. And I was like, okay. And she's like, do you have issues with, I was like, no. And then it dawned on me. I was like, and she was quite open. I was like, are you open to cosmic beings? And she was like, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, I have a lot of reproductive things happen on ships. And she just went, oh, okay. I'm like, with that? And she's like, yeah.
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, how do you explain that to a medical profession? I
You
mean, you
don't.
just don't. You just kind of smile and go, oh, I don't know. But
I mean, I have felt, even in my teen years, I felt like there was eggs being taken. And I actually, after the hysterectomy, I did a huge thing and I disconnected myself from the eggs because I just had this sense of no one can have my eggs.
mm,
It was so important. It was this humongous urge. And my team walked me through the process of how to do that
wow,
because I was like, they're not medical waste. Like I knew it.
yeah. So how early or how far back does contact experience go that you can remember? Like,
Well, I mean, I remember being with my grandfather, and I think I was like 6 or 7 when I saw, what I considered to be highest self, and she's not human.
mm,
Um, and then, there would be dreams and things like that.
yeah,
But it also, I felt like I look back, I feel like I was subjected to like attacks. Um, I had one where it was outside my bedroom window and it was second story. I look out and it's Jesus, right? There and like, which is so interesting because I say Jesus, but I like Yeshua has a different energy to me, but this was like the Catholic Jesus, right?
Yeah,
And
I see the
they
difference.
out there, and then it's like, come to me, come to me. And I almost went out the window. And if I had, I would have fallen down a couple stories onto wooden decoys. There's no surviving that. And then all of a sudden there was just this voice that said, do not do that. And that voice felt right.
Yeah,
And so then I looked and all of a sudden the being changed. And it was not a good being. And um I remember screaming down the stairs to my mom, Mom, Jesus turned into this. Sure, she was like, oh, fantastic. But it just, it feels like when you are somebody that has those types of memories, that there definitely feels to be the yin and the yang of it,
yeah,
for sure. And that's why I think shamanism was such a good fit because it was so much energy protection and sovereignty, right? It was just hard line declaring of things. And so it was a good fit.
I'm glad that you spoke to that because I do believe that there is a lot of darker aspects that do go on with highly bright frequency psychic
Yeah,
beings that
yeah,
it's like all shiny. A lot of different beings have a lot of different agendas, and
they
to
do.
give voice to that because
Yeah,
it's real and it happens.
it
And
is. It is real and it happens. And it's interesting because while I can say that example and that was very visual, but I had another example. You know the movie Scream,
yeah, yeah,
that mask,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I had some beings come to me in that mask, and I'm like, what the hell? And but then I stopped and I felt, and they were completely fine.
mm.
And I said, I was so rude. I was like, why do you look like that? And then the response was, have you considered that the one who created the movie had been in contact with? And I was like, no, I hadn't considered that. And so it's interesting because I learned really quickly, don't trust looks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You trust what you feel because that's the frequency, that's the truth. It once you run it through that heart space, I mean, if I had been in fear because of the thing, what I would have received would have been weird. It would have been like through the filter of fear, and Lord knows what that would have been. But I was very much like, oh, nope, stop, just breathe and feel
Mm-hmm.
and understanding because I mean, there's so much when we can look at movies like Avatar or Star Wars or all these things, people are receiving what's out there.
Yeah.
So it's there, we tend to see more like the humanoid, and like the contact stuff, but sometimes I think that they're just playing nice because that's not,
No.
it's not. And so you really do have to have that space of feeling like you have to be really clear on your energy and your safety. Because if you go through a veil of fear as you're trying to feel something, it's not going to be accurate.
Yeah.
So it's stepping into that space of knowing you're all right,
Mm-hmm.
you're okay, and
Yeah.
then feel and work from there.
Yeah. Thank you for giving voice to the fear filter because I think a lot of people, when they have, myself included, initial contact that was benevolent, but because my whole body has all these fear programs and filters from movies and
Totally,
yeah.
totally, absolutely. I was actually working with that last night. As I was in meditation and I'm working, it was like all these horror movies I've seen
Mm-hmm.
started coming up, right? And they were ones that scared me to death as a kid, whether it was Poltergeist or Exorcist or whatever. It's not the current ones because I don't watch horror movies, but um, and I'm like, well, what? and they literally were like, you see that? This is this frequency, close it. Close it. It was done. And I was like, okay. And they're like, now you've moved through that programming. But it was what got instilled. It got installed, right? And so it is pretty wild.
And so strategically done. I feel like
I had we went to this my youngest was little, and there was this dollar theater that I used to love to go to with her, and um the movie It was coming
yeah.
out. We were there watching a kids movie, and they put the preview from It in the
Oh
kids movie.
no.
And I'm like, what the hell? And it was these weird things. And I'm just like, ah, it's gonna be fine, whatever. Middle of the night, screaming, right? And I'm like, what? What is it? And she said, it's from the movie. They're here. And I'm like, okay, I got it. You're safe. Go back to sleep. Um, and it felt cardboard when I went into it, when I could feel it in the house. It was like a cardboard.
Like a in, like a imprint kind of
Yes,
cutout.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I
Oh.
followed it. And I followed it to a room with a ton of computers, and I lost my mind and I started breaking everything. And I was like, zero permissions.
Mm,
No. It
mm.
was very much like, don't mess with my kid.
I-
Like I can be very nice, mess with my kid, mess with my husband. Yeah, I'm not nice.
yeah. It comes
And I was
out.
just, right, and I just was immediately like, absolutely not. There's no permissions for this. But I could see it, and I don't know if that's how my mind was translating it, that it was computers sending. Doesn't actually matter, because I got to the root of it.
Mm,
But I was that at that point in time, that's when I said to her, I'm like, don't ever watch these things.
mm.
And I'm like, they're more than what you think they are. And so, now she's a teenager, and she watched The Conjuring, and she said it was really scary. And I'm like, now I need to sage the whole house. And and I was like, and she's like, and everyone else was fine with it. And I'm like, you're afraid because you know it's true. They think it's pretend.
Mm.
You know it's true. You know it's a possibility. And I was like, that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a child, I couldn't watch, like, I grew up with brothers and all male cousins predominantly. So it was like, that was the thing, horror movies and
Mhm.
all that. And my nervous system would fry because I'd become the movie. I would merge. I didn't realize that now, but I merged
Mm.
consciousness. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I can't. So many people say, oh, have you watched this movie? Have you watched that? And no, just no. Like, my world is
No.
rich. And I remember going to see the Mothman prophecies in the cinema, right?
Yeah.
And I was much more in tune with my intuitive abilities at that point. And what threw me was the fact that my truth chill triggers went off the entire movie, and I was like, I can't do, like, yeah, that was all real. That was all very real, and I can't have that
Yep.
come into my energy field of my psyche because that's just going to mess with me, and I already get messed with, so I don't need any more. you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and I've had similar to where it's like, okay, that was truth. That was not fantasy. That was holy crap.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But my we we laugh because we're like the only one we planned was the youngest one.
Okay. Yeah.
The other two were like, oh shit. Um and so it was like we had the family discussion because I'm like, one's going into middle school, one's going into high school, and I'm going to be bringing in a baby.
Mm.
This impacts us all. So we had discussions. It was like this whole thing, right? And I knew, I was told, even though I wouldn't say that I was like on the awakening path at that time, but I'd had the car accident, the first fusion, and had gotten into that space of not being on the gerbil wheel. So I was in that really ripe stage. And I just knew. I was like, this kid is going to be different. This
Mhm.
kid is going to be interesting. And so I decided to, doctors are like, you're really not going to get pregnant. They're like, you're having these issues. And I was like, okay. I was pregnant within 2 months, like nothing. And so the pregnancy was hard. It was hard to hold her in. I kept having contractions, and I had started working with a group of women, and I had done it for fun. So, husband would take the older ones to llama club because they were in 4-H and we had llamas. And they're a riot because you can wrap them in like Christmas lights and they can do Christmas parades and like
Oh,
it's a whole thing. And they're neat because they meditate. Llamas, they face the
really?
sun first thing in the morning when it rises, and they face it when it goes down, and they do the gazing. They're very, very interesting animals when they're not spitting on you. And the so while he was off with the girls doing that, I joined this little psychic club, right? And I was playing. It was fun. But then I started having all these problems, and these women would just a lot of them did Reiki, things like that. And so they were constantly building for me like a mesh to hold her in.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, let's get 32 weeks. We can do this kind of thing. And I would have bouts of, because I was really battling the pain. So it was like, I didn't want to continue taking the prescription painkillers because what is that going to do to her?
Mm.
Right. But if I didn't take at least a little bit, I was in full contractions. So it was this balance. And I did find that if I took one and laid down a lot, I was okay. But then the further along the pregnancy got, the worse it started getting. And I was just like, calm down, you need to calm down. And so there was one moment I'm laying in bed and I'm like, I can time them. They're 4 minutes apart. Like, we're in trouble. And my closet, opened up and it was this angelic choir. And they just started playing tones. And she calmed right down and it just stopped. And it was like, ooh, what was that? And then it happened a couple times. And then there was one time where it just wasn't working anymore. And then there was this being in the corner of the room, and he was a tree, and he had red eyes. And so I was a little worried about the red eyes at the time because I hadn't done any connecting myself. Everything was happening not to me, but there was no initiation on my part. I was not in that space, and anything psychic was just fun, right? It was not, I don't know. I don't know if I don't even really know how to describe it, but and so this tree starts doing this rumble, and he would just do this really, really low rumble, and then body would calm down, and the contractions would stop, and she'd settle, and I'd be good for a while. And then when I hit 32 weeks, I went back to this group, and I'm like, I'm 32 weeks. And I was like, I can't even thank you guys enough because it was like every week we'd meet and every week they would do work. And one of the ladies says to me, she goes, are you kidding? She's like, I have felt this child. I have felt how incredible. She's like, this is an honor. And one of the big reasons that I struggled was I was low vibrational
Okay, interesting.
and she was not. I mean, I literally was not on the path, but path didn't care. It's like, we drag you.
Yeah,
It's
I was
fine.
about to say, yeah.
But there was like no conscious participation. So, and plus I was on pharmaceuticals. I was on so many different things that now I'm like, I wouldn't drink that now, right? Whereas then I didn't even think twice about processed foods, didn't think twice about it.
Mhm.
And so the body really, really struggled to bring her in. Yeah. And she's been very, very interesting. She really has been. I remember one time saying to her, I'm like, well, Maddie, God doesn't make mistakes. And she turns around and looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? God makes mistakes every day. And I just looked at her and she said, God's learning, you're learning. If God was perfect, you'd be expected to be perfect, and you're not.
Oh
She's
my.
just like, look at him like, and I'm like, let me go write this down.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I know, I know. And so there's just been these moments where you see that soul come forward,
Mhm.
and it's like, holy crap.
And would you say that she's been a really big catalyst for you? I mean,
Huge,
yeah.
huge. Yeah. Um, just even in her presence. I recently had an incident. I went to a different hairdresser and mine had moved to Ecuador. And so it was a new one and she was recommended, but I told her what I did for a living and I saw her eyes widen and then I saw her kind of get scared, shut down, and then start talking to me about football. But and as my hair was cut way shorter than I wanted it to be. And so I was talking to my daughter about that, and I'm like, I don't know how to handle that situation. She goes, Mom, you look at her and you say, does what I do make you uncomfortable? And if it does, we don't have to go forward with this appointment because I need to make sure that you with the scissors is
Right.
going to give me what I need and that you're not flustered. And I'm like looking at her going, I was like, would you really say that? She goes, my hair? Yes, I would. Because she's got stunning long hair. And I'm just like, that level of emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
that level of presence, that level of, yeah,
just stunning.
it is. And at the same time, she's a typical teenager.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
yeah, what a
But
beautiful
we're,
blend to have. Yeah.
we're the typical human. I mean, we may not feel typical all the time, but we still go to the grocery store. We still have things to do. We still, and yet there's a whole lot more. So it's very, very, very interesting.
When you look back on all these dreams that you've had that are clearly parallels that are running concurrently, and you may not have even unpacked this yet, but can you look back and see direct correlations with things that may have been happening in your life? Because I got this message a couple of months ago and I kind of giggle now. It came through and it literally said, watch the, this is what I saw in the dream. It said, watch the
Mhm.
Pentagon. Now, I'm Australian, like I'm not watching the Pentagon.
Sure.
And I saw like a comet or something hit it, like there was an explosion, and it said, watch the Pentagon. And then it said, when this happens in a parallel reality, it affects all reality.
Hmm.
And then I heard the words parallel lives matter, and you need to talk about it. Yeah.
They do matter. Um,
And that whole scenario, I mean, it was the Pentagon and there was no other information around that, but it was just showing me that, like, what happens in one has a ripple effect in all. And I feel like we're moving into this time where you were saying there is this linkage and there's this building that's occurring. And I feel like I've been shown there's almost a collapse that happens in our ascension process where we all timelines come into an amalgamation. I don't know the interest, like
I think we're in it.
we're yeah.
We're in it. So have you ever experienced a storm and you hear it and you see the flashes and you know it's not a storm?
Mm-hmm.
You know it's a war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know it's like there's definitely California. It was like full invasion into California. And um I saw it like with the storm, right? I could feel it and then I dreamed it. And it was really very interesting.
I just have to so I had a contact experience in January of 2023. I was out camping by the beach, Golden Beach, beautiful
Mhm.
place, like really. And I felt the frequency go up. And I always know when contact's going to happen because all of a sudden I'm just like me. And then I'm like me in this,
Mhm.
there's few Alishas, but there's that. And I get really like, you know, a lot of people have said over the years, I look like I'm on drugs because all of a sudden my
Mhm.
eyes become really pingy and I get really,
Yeah.
but it's just the frequency. And as I went to bed that night, I literally closed my eyes and this being popped right up in my face. And it was the most beautiful being I've ever seen. Looked like Avatar kind of being, but like this luminous pink, purple, like
Mm.
glittery skin type being. And she just said, there's a war going on up there, don't you? And then just kind of, and she goes, but don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And I was gone.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you for bringing that up. But I don't know about you, like I've been noticing more and more. We were talking offline about having the, I can't remember the term you use, but I call them the on days and the off days,
Mhm.
like the flickering of timeline realities is just
Yeah.
also. And I notice it that every time it clouds over here, like the sun will be out and I feel amazing in my body. I have pain-free day. Everything's, as soon as the cloud rolls over, everything in my body changes and I feel that change in the atmosphere. And I've said to
Mhm.
my dad so many times, I'm like, every time the clouds roll over, is that because they're covering what's happening above us? Anyway, I don't want to interrupt you anymore, but I
No, I mean, it really could be. And it's funny because my husband is the exact same way with the sun. Yeah, the exact same way. We have the visitors are trying to come in.
oh
Yeah, he's Kool-Aid man. He opens any door. I don't know how he does it, but he does. Okay. And close. Um, you're stuck now, bud. So what was I gonna say? What I've noticed, I shared with you off camera was that there's days I have a cavity,
mm,
and that day is generally a rougher day. My knee will hurt, my wrist will hurt. I don't feel right. I don't feel okay. The thoughts can go,
oh, yeah,
right? And and then I'll reconcile it. Like I'll write and I'll do all this stuff. And then it's like I'm okay. And then the next day, no cavity. And I may not have a cavity for 5 or 6 days.
mm,
And then
mm. And
boom, the cavity's back. And so it's not like it's a huge cavity. It doesn't hurt, but it is noticeable. And so it's like, it's just kind of funny. It's like, I'm like, okay, so I've got two worlds that are migrating right now. Can the one without the cavity please win? Can it please win? I really don't want to do this. But it feels to me like the world without the cavity
mm,
has a little bit of a disconnected feeling
mm,
from the collective.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
it is full of potential.
uh-huh.
Like it's and I get downloads really easy, really fast during that time. And even just next steps, like, just the other day they were talking to me about Antarctica and they're like, it's like boom, 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 boom. And I just have to write notes because I'm like, it's going to go back down.
Yeah, yeah,
And during that, it's funny. What I have found is on the days that it's back down are the days I do very 3D things. I
yeah,
grocery shop, I do the bills, I do things like that. I organize, I'll clean. And then on the days when I don't have a cavity is when I'm like, it's everywhere. And yet it's no longer ungrounded.
no, that's what I've noticed too.
It's like,
Yeah,
boom, it's here and it's a presence. And I have found that when I do go out into the public, which isn't often, I work from home. And my daughter drives herself now. So if it wasn't for like a sports game or something, I'm telling you, I don't know that I would leave. Um, and it's like, but when I go out now, I'm noticing that on the days with no cavity, it's either people are like, they look at me and they're very quick, they get the hell out of my way, or people come right to me.
Yeah.
And people just talk. They're like, I mean, people will tell me their life story in like, 5 seconds flat. And my daughter's looking at me like, but it's funny because it's happening to her now too. So she's working at Great Wolf Lodge, and so as she's working and stuff, she's like, people talk to me. She's like, I didn't need to know that. I didn't need to know. And it's just funny because I'm like, I feel you, kid. I feel you. Um, so it really does feel to me what it honestly feels like to me is the days of no cavity are the days where I am adjusting mentally, emotionally, and physically to the new space, the new reality. Then I come back down and I need to clean up my crap.
Yes. Thank you.
So whether it's the thoughts, whether it's I was actually working on a concept of we talk about like I don't want to be abandoned and I have abandonment issues and I want to feel like I'm important to people. I want to feel important in people's lives, right? Like when you're looking at some of the abandonment stuff, there can be that energy. But what it really is, importance means I have to do.
Mm.
Mattering to somebody means I matter because I breathe.
Yeah.
And it's this different energy. And I was really playing with how that's gotten skewed
Mm.
in within me,
Mm.
right? It's you matter if you do. You matter if you give.
Mm.
And the minute that you don't, what comes up, right? What programming comes up? What ways do you not feel worthy? What ways are you worried that you're going to get left behind? Whatever the thoughts are, right? And it's not even, I was talking to a friend about this morning and she said, well, I'll do a clearing because she's experiencing very, very similar things. And I said, it's not really about clearing it. It's
Mm.
about seeing it and going, you had it skewed.
Mm.
You had it skewed. That's okay. Now let's flip it. Let's be aware of it. So it feels like the days of the cavity, just because I hate the dentist. It's like these are your bad days. But those days are the days that it's like I feel like the high vibrational time,
Mm.
like the higher you vibe, the lower you go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the high vibration is this spotlight and it's shining in the corners of the stuff that you didn't see, want to see, or misunderstood.
Mm.
And it's not easy. And so, in where I'm seeing, because there's plenty of times that that has happened where I could have projected onto another.
Mm.
I could have, and I've caught myself blaming someone. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, 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 no. This is mine, all mine. This is all me. And
Mm.
that shifts it, right? But I can see where people are projecting and they're pushing it on to other people because they may not have the coping skills to go, this is my mirror.
Mm.
What is coming up? And yes, I can blame you. I can. That's a choice, but I don't have to.
Mhm.
Because if I blame you, I haven't learned. And I'm going to repeat this. Whereas if I can go, where is my part? Where is my role? What do I need to change? I'm finding that the times with the cavity are small and the times without the cavity are getting longer.
Mhm.
And it's not because of tooth putty. So, I mean, when you're talking about how to you it feels like everything is coming in and collapsing in, that's exactly how I see it. I mean, there are parallel worlds dying right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's like when that, what's happening is the aspect of you in that parallel world has an option and they can go back to the all, they can go back to soul sourcing. So, who is the one who went into this experience? Or they can integrate right here
Mm.
because maybe there's something
Yeah.
that they know or understand that I haven't done yet,
Yeah.
right? And so then if we, it doesn't have to be conscious, but if we can allow ourselves to grow and allow ourselves to shift, then we can bring in the aspects from these other worlds that have learned and grown and experienced something different. You know, I said to one of my guides before, I said, is there ever been anybody that has completed the earth experience in one life? And they said, yes, one person. And I'm like, how? And they said, this person went into very much channeling, going, I can hear your story and I can live it. And no matter what it is, I can view it through the lens of compassion and the lens of understanding. And when you do that, when you understand the yin and yangs, I've been murdered and I'm a murderer. If I can really feel into that and reconcile it and let it go, do I need to experience it? No. So, you know, when they told me that, it's very much my mission to go, what I find abhorrent, can I begin to understand? And through that, can I give compassion? And compassion isn't permission. Compassion isn't saying it's okay. It's understanding that there's a lot going on with us and that there are the quote unquote bad characters who are playing a hell of a role here, but it is a role. So I don't know. I try to work it. I try to work it that way. And the more I do, the more I'm finding I open.
I love the way wisdom just oozes out of you, and you have such a great way of articulating it. It's so beautiful and it's so human, and that's what we need. We need the yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Thank you.
yeah, and powerful because I can feel all the, and I'm sure many people watching this will feel the non-verbal
Mhm.
ripple of the energetics that's coming through your words. And
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thrilled the internet's holding.
I know, right?
I'm thrilled it doesn't. Internet's like, yeah, that was too much. Sorry, stage left.
You reminded me. I've had many experiences, but one in particular, going back into 2023. Um, I had a couple of nights of a being that literally looked like the stereotypical devil.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was lying in bed and it would hover above me, and I would have this conversation with him, and he was basically saying to me, first of all, it came in about, he was giving me very specific things about ancestral um, spells and curses, and giving me dates and like such key things that I was able to validate. And he's like, you
Yeah.
have to reverse this stuff. This is, in your ancestral, you know. And then it continued, and he was like, humanity will hit a point where the most uh, the the I can't even put the words around it. It's like the most horrific things need to be forgiven and seen with compassion. Exactly what you're saying. Because
Yeah.
that's the only way that we're going to like really enter into this new reality. We have
It's
to
the
come.
only way. It
And
is the only way.
and he's like, you're gonna have to be a voice for this. And he was just giving me all these scenarios and all this information. And I just, in the middle of it, I literally started laughing out loud, and I was like, oh my god, like if anyone was privy to this, like, again, I said to him, what do you want me to call this? Dialogues with the devil? Like, I'll do a whole series on it. Like, here I am trying to go to sleep and you're hovering in my bedroom and giving me all this. But it reminded me because it was very much a similar line of what, we will get to this, and we're here. Like, I feel like we're arrived. We're arriving. ride. Like we're into some
We're in
really,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember saying to one of the beings that had horns, I'm like, what's with the horns? And the answer surprised me because the horns, and so it sounds so weird when I say it out loud, but the horns, if you look at it, it's the fallopian tubes coming down into the uterus.
Oh, you're right.
It it is that it's that bowl. It's the feminine.
Oh,
And then they said to me in like little graphic, but if you're um on your back and your legs are up,
oh.
that's the bowl. That's the horns. And that's one of the reasons why you see in a lot of the old ways, it was like, why would they put horns on?
Mm,
Because they were honoring the chalice that is the feminine womb. Because when you bring a child in, you are the vessel. So it was a way of honoring.
mm.
And so that was really interesting. And there's like, this is why the horns got skewed. And I'm like, oh,
Such inversion, isn't it? I've
yeah,
never heard that before.
yeah. But it's such an interesting thing. And I mean, but I did have one. It was like I woke up one night and the dog is like right here, right? And it's actually the little one in the picture back there, and she is freaking out. And I'm like, Dixie, what are you doing? And then I look and there's this giant demon beside my bed. And I'm like, I want to sleep. But I did the same thing where I was like, just feel, don't react. There's no battle. I will say that I don't battle anymore.
Yeah.
And so then I just felt, and then I was like, Archangel Michael, what the hell are you doing? And there was a laugh, and then boom, it was Archangel Michael, and he said, congratulations, you passed.
Oh,
And I said, what? And he said, the ones that think I'm a demon, they failed. I was like, oh.
oh,
And he said, always trust what you feel. Always.
oh, yeah. I felt
I mean, it is your truth,
that.
what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, for me, it was just such a shock. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why? Don't I deserve sleep? They're like, no. Mm-mm.
I had a similar. I was dog sitting the neighbor's dog, and I had two dogs at the time, and I don't know, three crazy o'clock, whatever it was. They all got startled, and I kind of rolled over, and I looked out into my living room, and there was the most horrific looking being,
Mhm.
and they were obviously very startled, and I just like glimpsed it, and I said, "Oh, for God's sake, I'm too tired for this," and I rolled over and went back to sleep. But I can imagine that would like throw a few people off. Like,
Right. But I mean, at this point, I'm like, look, take a number, right? Like, night is not your night. I am tired.
oh my God, totally.
It's just sometimes I'm always like, I tell my husband, I'm like, you need to write a book. You really, because just the amount of times I've like woken him up and been like, this just happened, or, because it's not that he's a light sleeper, but it's like literally I could just say one tiny little thing and he'll answer me. And I'll say, this just happened. He's like, okay, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, okay. And then sometimes in the morning he'll remind me. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah, you need that
interesting.
sometimes.
Yeah. But I had one where so it was COVID and it was 2020 and my nephew had come from New York and he had the bad COVID. Like,
um,
and I got it and I was so sick. So sick. And I couldn't breathe. And so I was sitting up to breathe and my husband kept saying, "Just Jen, you have to go to the hospital. You have to go." I said, "Honey, I won't come out."
mm,
I'm like, I knew I will not return home if I go anywhere.
mm,
So I just that night I said, look, I don't know what you all want. I said, if this is you taking me out, just freaking take me out. If it's not, help me. But I'm not going to a hospital. So I did fall asleep like sitting up some, and then I felt something, and I opened my eyes, and there was this gold being beside the bed. Hands me a cup. I take the cup and I drink it. But the crazy part is all of a sudden, here's my husband. He's totally asleep. He sits up, holds his hands out, takes a cup, downs it, lays back down, and goes to sleep. And I'm like, what happened here? And I woke up the next morning, and it was for the most part gone. You know how like after
Yeah.
you're sick, but you still have a little bit of cough, but you're not sick anymore? That was me. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, it's just, but it's hilarious to me because he sat up and he drank it. And so I'm always like, okay, there's more to this guy than what,
Totally,
like,
totally.
yeah,
If
like
he's on this ride with you, like,
he's just playing. He's just playing. He like probably is, someone who knows 40 times more than me. And he's just like, let's see what we can do.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I want to, I have two questions in my mind. I kind of want to bring it into some sort of a full circle. I know off camera you mentioned Atlas a little,
Hmm.
because I do feel like Atlas is playing some sort of a role with a lot of the frequencies that are coming in and this kind of
Yeah.
real cosmic space that I'm feeling that is moving into. So there's that part, and I want to kind of throw it in with this. I had a sequence of dreams and dream information that came through during this week. And it was basically, I was shown this chart around for all these new souls were like trying to communicate to me, ones that aren't incarnated.
Okay.
And that's kind of the realm that I work in often. I call it the baby realm. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
But they were kind of, I could feel them all trying to press in, and the message came. It was like 2025 was the preparation. 2026 is the gestation, and 2027 is the landing.
Hmm.
And what I was being shown in this sequence was like all these women being prepared to have these cosmic light conception, kind of mixture of light conception, physical. But I was also seeing other people who would become like an adopted parent or a foster, like a child would come into their life in some
Hmm.
way that they would. And then I was literally seeing like cosmic children just showing up, like hybrids just like showing up and integrating into families. Look, I've seen this for a long time. I didn't know what time frames we were playing, and
Sure.
that's what came in. And I've met many women over the years who've had been part of hybrid programs and had hybrid children, had contact with them. I know some that have materialized and appeared to them in window spaces.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, like, are some just going to come and join the family? Like, I know that sounds so out there, but with these parallels collapsing, I guess it's a possibility, right?
Not only is it a possibility, but if you're what you're really saying is these children are going to come in and there's no veil, there's no amnesia.
Yes. Mm.
So we can call it hybrids and cosmic children, but we all are.
We all,
So, but we went through the veil,
mm.
right? We went through and had to be programmed. We got downloaded with what race are we? What
Mm.
sex are we got downloaded with it all. What economic do we come into? Like, so you can imagine it's like a program. It's like stacking in. What if all of that is gone? And just like when we were talking about my no cavity days, where it's like the
Mm-hmm.
potential, the ah, they come in at that.
That, correct. That's exactly right.
And how that would shift so much. I was working with Lady Nada years ago, and she was telling me, she said the revolution is here and it's beginning. And it was, I kept seeing little kids in diapers, right? And they would take their parents into the woods, and it was like seeing the elementals or seeing, the star beings, and it was the children leading the way. And it was totally, totally like a revolution, right? Not as a war, but as a
Mm,
revealing,
mm.
and the children led the way. So I totally can see what you're saying. I also did receive that there could be walk-ins.
Thank you. That was the other part. I was also seeing that there's a lot of walk-ins that will come in that wave too. So it's like that they'll look for the avenues that can be presented because all these souls are just like bursting, it seems. But you're right, they're only coming through in that, as you call it, non-cavity day, when we kind of stabilize that as the permanent
Stabilized it.
baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because, what I'm hearing is there's going to be different types of walk-ins. So there's going to be the one to where, like, we talked about parallel worlds, right? Well, there's one where it could feel like a walk-in, but it's you.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there also feels like the other, which is one soul leaves, one soul comes
Yeah.
in. And that makes sense to me because if the vessel is healthy
Mm.
and it can anchor, um, then it's, but what this brings me to, I had this dream. I was in a warehouse and people were on their knees with no heads. And they had a dossier, like, and it was like the age, what programmings needed to be moved through. It was like all of these things, right? And it just felt like, and I think it was headless because you couldn't really, like, it was just like the body. I don't know. It was a dream. And I'm working with this being, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm choosing who I want to go into. These are my options." And so I saw there was like, and it was a male, and he wanted to go into a male. And I saw this one guy who was very, very overweight, right? And had, like, and I remember looking at his sheet, it was like low self-esteem, very much like in his apartment, didn't do anything, just very cloistered. And then right next to him was this guy with like incredible physique, right? um and he was like, personal trainer, da 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 da. And so, and he just goes, "I think I'm going to choose this one," and he chooses the heavier guy. And I looked at him, I said, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why would you choose that? Like, I'd want to go into that body, right?" And he said, and he goes, and I don't mean this for people, every person who is fit, so don't mistake that. um he said, "This one here," he goes, "I don't have enough time to get through the layers of ego and defense mechanisms." He said, "I don't have that time." He said, "But this one I can just build.
Mm.
This one just needs love. This one just needs confidence." He's like, "I can do that, but I don't have time to break
Break
that down."
that.
And so it's interesting because I'm like, well, if the vessel still works, of course, but that dream actually shows that
Mm,
it's not so much about this physical, it's about this.
mm-hmm.
And what would make someone a good candidate for a walk-in.
Wow. That's so
Yeah.
insightful. That's so insightful.
So yeah, wow. Huh. So you had asked about 3iAtlas. So to me, it's not a comet. Um, it feels like an emissary,
Mm,
if you will. It feels like its job is to bring an element to us that triggers us from going from the goop inside the chrysalis to the butterfly. There has to be a mechanism that turns it on. And it is bringing that. Now, when you look at swan and you look at lemon, they are these purifiers. Like, they're rough, right? They are pulling up. And I literally, as I was connecting, it's like I could feel the earth pulling up. Like, she is also letting go of a lot of stuff. But so are we. It's literally being pulled up,
yeah.
and it's so that we can see it. It's the stuff that's hidden, and so now it's here and it's spinning, and it's our opportunity to really look at it, um really to get us ready for, feels like when Atlas connects with the sun, that's when it's going to be like, you know, the codes coming in massive. Um, but at the same time, it's one of those things, the way that the Lyran being described it to me, and hopefully I'm not repeating myself, but was that it's the ignition,
Mm.
right? But if everything in our goop, so the caterpillar to the chrysalis, if everything isn't in alignment, the ignition doesn't land, the ignition destroys.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what's going on. And it's one of the reasons why there is significant grief right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we are, whether we're conscious of it or not, we are experiencing that grief. We are experiencing aspects of ourselves ending and merging back in, possibly, but it's worlds ending,
Literally. Yeah.
literally. And while that may look like, okay, it's a computer program wiped, okay, it doesn't matter because in it, we're in it, right? And it's very, very real. So that is part of the grief that people are feeling. So I think it's going to be interesting. And I mean, they keep telling me 5 years, that it's the next 5 years. Not only are they crucial, but they are, how do I put it? It's like they're, every day is the stepping stone into the next day. And, you know, they've said to me multiple times, and then this Lyran being really hit home. He's like, you don't understand how sacred this time is. And it's funny because he's like, if you really understood, you'd be sitting in awe. And he said, you wouldn't worry about bills. You wouldn't worry about these things. You would really, you would be
Yeah.
present with yourself.
Yeah. Taking in the enormity of it all.
Yeah. So I think people are really, they're struggling. It's not easy. There's bad days and then there's good days. And I hate to quantify it that way, but you know, when you're spinning and you got a cavity, it's not the best day. But I am finding like the coping mechanisms are crucial. Like what brings you calm?
Mm.
Oh, and I was sharing with you, I have a swim spa. And it was like the one thing, my mom died. I was like, got some inheritance, and I was like, that is gonna get me through. And I am such a water baby. So I've been spending a lot of evenings out looking at the moon and the stars, and I'm finding that the energies at night coming in, all the codes coming in, are a lot gentler. The days, the sun, and I'm a sun worshiper. I love the sun, but they're harsh,
Yeah.
you know, unless I get them at first thing in the morning or right in the evening. They're harsh and they just feel jarring to my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've switched my routine and now I'm out at night, and it's like I can feel the codes integrating much, much faster. So, but it we have to have these routines. We have to have these coping mechanisms. And you really kind of need to plan them even before you need them. I mean,
Yeah. What comes to mind is have like 3 to 5 things that you do that
yeah,
you can go to. Yeah.
yeah,
And have it,
absolutely.
you need to have it written on a post-it note on the fridge or
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost like I see like a toolbox. What are your tools, right? And then you can just reach your hand in and go, okay, and I got this card, and this card says I need to go outside and do this breath. That's how I really see it, because it's like if you know it works, truth is you're going to forget it when you're in the weeds.
correct.
So you need something that's like, oh, okay, oh yeah, duh, why aren't I using my essential oil? Like, why am I not doing these things? Because you're in the weeds. So it's really making that plan or
Yeah.
having something that you can pull on. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Jenny, I could talk to you for
I
hours.
know, we could just talk forever.
And hopefully, you'll accept my invitation to maybe come back and we can do this again. Because I'm
Yeah,
sure that the information and the experiences are just going to continue to snowball, and we'll have a lot more to share
yeah,
as the weeks and months progress in this unveiling. The
I know. And
um,
it is exciting. It's not easy, but it's exciting.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. Um,
Yeah.
it For people who want to get in contact with you, I will
Mhm.
put your details in the description box below. Is there
Okay.
anything that is upcoming that you want to share, or anything about your work that you want to sort of?
Yeah. I am doing sessions.
Mhm.
So I took off about a year. And then so I am open to sessions now. And I do group healings. And they're scheduled for at the beginning of the month. So there's one coming, I think it's November 5th. And they're becoming more and more galactic as we go forward.
Surprise.
And surprise! And then the codes that are coming in, and they're really getting very, very powerful.
Mm.
So that is something definitely to check out and to see if it aligns. Um, I've got a retreat coming up, but I haven't quite announced it yet. So it's not on the website, but it's in Honduras.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's on Roatan Island on the cutest little resort ever. And we're going to be working on the alchemy of the soul embodiment.
Oh,
So, but really infusing play into it. Like,
yes.
we've lost play. And like, what does that look like to allow yourself that type of childlike wonder and play and connection with all the elements? And I mean, and this resort is just, I mean, it's tiny. There's only 13 rooms. Like, it's tiny, but it's like there's the beach right there on the Caribbean, there's the jungle,
Oh,
and it's on a crystal bed. I, I know. I know. I did a retreat there last year, and I found it through going to retreats. So it's interesting. I'm finding I'm there a couple times a year now, and there's something so magical about it. But that's going to be in April. And so, keep an eye out for that. You can even email me and you're like, ah, don't forget me for April. And then I can let you know the details because I'm just now pulling it all together. But it's really going to be, we're going to be working with the elements because it's all around us. But it is really moving into that alchemy of
mm,
how do we work with ourselves to go forward? How do we balance our masculine and feminine? How do we really work with this inner child so that we're not in a constant loop? How do we work with that, giving the compassion to
mm.
ourselves? So that's the next big thing coming
Oh,
up.
that sounds
That was
just delicious. I can't think of any other word.
uh, and I love it. I love it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So it's going to be really good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you
And then
for sharing
I
all that.
recently, yesterday, was it yesterday, the day before? I got the hit of, I think I'm going to be working on doing a group cruise to Antarctica.
Oh,
Yeah, that
wow.
came in hard. And I literally called my husband and said, I think we're going to Antarctica. He's like, when? And I'm like, we've got to get those codes. We've got to get them. They're the codes from before, the ones that are frozen are before the last pole flip.
Okay. So I had this dream like less than a month ago that I got invited to go on a cruise that was going to Antarctica. But we had to it was coming through the southeast coast of Australia, pick me up. And I had a friend that was on there, Rebecca, we and then it went into the South Pacific Islands, and then it went to Hawaii, and then it went to Texas, and then it was very specific, and then Antarctica.
Aha.
I don't know. I have to share that with you.
Aha. Okay.
So I thought
So
it was
that's
something about those
interesting.
points. But,
Mm-hmm. It's
mm,
very, very interesting. So is it Texas, like on the Gulf? Hmm.
mm,
So I've been working that Gulf with the crystal pyramids there. and Hawaii has been coming in. And but then I was shocked that Antarctica came in, and I'm like, but I mean, I think what's going to happen is when this one goes to college, she's a junior now. It's like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be home.
Mm.
It's
It
like,
feels
I can
like
feel,
that.
I
It's a
can
real
feel it.
expansive travel energy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, because right now it's like what I've done is working very much in Central America. I'm going back to Belize in December. Um, and so it's working the Central America, Cozumel, those womb gates and the crystal pyramids that are out there, which are, they're very Lantean type energies. But when you move into that Hawaii, then you're Lemuria, right?
Mm.
And then Antarctica is before all of it. So yeah, I just got covered. I just got covered in goosebumps. So there's something here. There's like this circuit, but I've been doing the Central America, then doing a ton in France,
Mm.
UK, Egypt, and linking it all together. So there's
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
that's so funny. I had a dream. I was on a cruise. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, so it's fascinating.
mm.
It's the way that it's all just coming in. And today I was talking to somebody and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking about this Australia. I mean, not Australia, the Antarctica thing. I'm like, that's open water. I'm a little afraid. And oh my God, what am I thinking, right? And here I am, I'm pulling my head down. And then Facebook pops up and it's my oldest. And she said, Rowan, who is my oldest granddaughter, says that she was working on something and she says, Mom, I need to go to Antarctica. And so she sends this to me, and I'm like, of course that little shit did, right? Because it was the universal ding, ding, ding. No, no, don't let your fears stop this, right? And she's an interesting one. We'll have to go into her story one day, but like, so my daughter was pregnant with her, and we did UK, then we did France. She was born in Turkey, right in the Mesopotamia, and then we got her back here, and I'm like, yep, of course. And I said to my oldest, I said, I think you're going to Antarctica with me. And I said, and I know you won't be able, because you'll have the kids, you won't be able to do things. He's like, I was like, but you can travel with the group. And, you know, and she's like, when? And I'm like, I think June, July of 2027. And she's like, fine, I'll put it on the calendar. She's just like, somehow, some way, I'll pull it on my ass. Like, it'll be fine. But it is so funny because it was like, I mean, it was literally, I was talking to somebody on Zoom saying, I don't know what I'm thinking. And ding, here pops this message. And I'm like, all right, fine, fine. Like you can't make this crap
You
up.
can't. You can't.
And so it is fascinating to me looking at the codes she has had that she's carrying.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it is.
I've been shown this new generation that are coming forth to come in. They want to be in amongst the travel because they carry. So what you're saying is basically a confirmation of that. It's just like shifting the energy templates and
There's so much right now that's boots on the ground.
yeah,
We can do etheric work,
it's all about the physical.
but it is now the physical, and it is literally getting you to places.
Mm.
And so it's such an interesting thing because we can see how like there's so many like barriers to it, right? And you can see how the mind, I mean, I can look at the whole, Antarctica thing, my mind started taking over going, you're kind of afraid of cruising, right? Like you like the ground. And how that can come in and whip up something and stop you. And so you can see how many people who like, oh, I really wanted to go to France. Oh, I wanted to go here. I wanted to go there. And they don't. They
Mm.
stop themselves. And I've seen where people are like, oh, I'll look at a place and I'll visit etherically. And it's like, not anymore.
Yeah, no,
Not
no.
anymore. If you're called, go because it will work out. And I mean, it just does. It's like they said to me, because you know how time is really funky and wonky.
Mm,
They said to me, they said, schedule your joy,
mm,
schedule it, because everything else will fall in around it. But if you try to get your to-do list done before you do the thing that makes you feel good, you'll never get it done. You'll never get it done.
mm.
And the same thing is like with these callings, because they're callings. It's like, and it can be hard, particularly if you're in a relationship with somebody who isn't gonna allow it or whatever. But it's like, it's funny because it's like my daughter's like, put it on the calendar, and she knows
Mm.
it's gonna work out. I don't know how it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out.
Just us. Yeah.
It just is. Actually, it's none of my business, the how. That's what they've literally told me. They said, the how is not your business. Your business is the yes. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just come here and sit down.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for this.
I love talking to you. Talk forever, I know.
Yeah, we will. We will absolutely schedule this. This feels
Yeah.
like joy. Let's schedule this in again.
It does. Like I just looked at the time and was like, oh my gosh.
I know. I was like,
It
oh,
is joy. It is joy.
well, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you've
Yeah, thank
enjoyed
you.
this. We will absolutely be back again.
Yeah.
And until next time, connect with Jenny. All her details will be in the description box below.
Yeah.
And until next
Yeah.
time, just
Thank
think
you. I appreciate you.
likewise. Much love
It's love you too.
and bye everyone.
Bye.